Fam out there. This is Tahir Johnson, and I'm back with another episode of the Cannabis Diversity Report. Today, I have my man David Hewitt in the building from Meadow. David, how's it going, man?
Hello. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to
I'm
be
glad.
here.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to connect with you in Cali early in the morning, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come out. I know you're like me. You said you have a little one there at home, man. So how's it been working with the little one during the quarantine?
It's been challenging. I think for parents during this pandemic, there is definitely like a nod every time you see a parent. You're going through it. It's also been really great to just be around, to have family. I can only imagine if you're alone and you don't have someone that just can smile and not think about all this other stuff. That's been really helpful. And then I'm in the camp of looking for different activities and things. So for 4-year-olds, so if anyone out there has that, hit me up.
I feel you. I'm trying to figure the same thing
Where can
out.
I get 5-10 minutes of this
Right, right.
of
So
engagement?
to take it back to Meadow, Meadow builds a number of software solutions for California's cannabis industry. Tell us a little bit more about the company and what you guys do.
Yeah. So we're based in San Francisco. We started here in 2014, and we've been building software kind of in lockstep with legalization. When we started in California, we were in this environment of Prop 215, amazing program that ran for over 2 decades because of Dennis Perone, Brownie Mary, and what was amazing about it, it was built off of compassion. So it was a collective model through donation process and was all medical. So our initial foray was really building out a way to get better delivery and more reliable, more high quality. We ended up working with a dispensary called Vapor Room. My first dispensary I ever visited in Lower Haight. Then they went straight to delivery, and we started building out a delivery app that allowed people to order basically right from Vapor Room to deliver to their door. It was pretty great. And then and that's when we started, and we evolved from there. We got into Y-Combinator. We started helping people get recommendations for with a doctor we work with at Oaksterdam. We then graduated from Y Combinator, raised a seed round, and decided to focus more on the B2B side. Initially, we're B2C, basically helping connect consumers to dispensaries. And we just saw that there was a huge need for more tools as the regulations were going to get more and more complicated. So going from Prop 215 to 64, we had a whole bunch of bills in the middle and a different bunch of emergency regulations that changed the environment every single time. So we just focused on compliance, operations, and really helping with different marketing suites to give them all the things they needed to operate.
Right. So talk about the Y Combinator a little bit more. That's something I wanted to ask you about. So for anybody that doesn't know, Y Combinator is a seed money startup accelerator, and they've actually been instrumental in launching some pretty large tech companies today, like Stripe, Airbnb, Coinbase, and Twitch, along with a few others. And you're the first cannabis company that's gone through there. So what would you say that you learned through the process of being a part of something like that, especially about raising capital for your business? And what about that process you think you could teach other entrepreneurs or minorities that need to learn more about that area?
Yeah, YC was amazing. I think if you can get into any sort of accelerator, incubator, anything where you have really good mentorship, that's helpful. What ends up happening with Y Combinator, they invest 125 grand for about 7% of your business, and it's in that exchange. There's also a 3 to 4 month program where you have mentorship from different partners. And you're also mentoring with your peer groups, broken up in different groups. And what you finally you see is a lot of companies have the same problems, and it sort of boils down into some principles that YC was able to to teach us, really around making something that people want. So really, and that is really talking to your customers, talking to your users, talking to your clients, talking to your partners, understanding what they are, what they need, and build. Ignoring competition, mainly because most companies die because of themselves, not because someone else coming out and taking them out.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like before going into something like that, one thing I highly recommend is making sure you have the right co-founders. It's hard to be a solo founder. It's easier to have some people with you. And so what's that African proverb? If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go, with a group, with a team.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate to work with my co-founders in a previous startup. So you may find people that you gel with and have chemistry that you want to embark on a longer journey with, and you should be equal. All our co-founders are equal. We don't have, especially when you're starting something new, no one has more say over anyone else. We also have our own lanes. So finding diversity within your co-founder group, so you have implicit trust that they own their lane, you own your lane, but there's a mutual respect and understanding for what you're trying to accomplish. That's really important, especially early days when you're trying to get a product off the ground where there's a lot of stress. And Y-Combinator actually helped us build more of a cadence, a pace on growing and like working with each other in that environment, which made us stronger, which was awesome. And then as far as your question on raising money, early days, a lot of investors are definitely looking at the team. So having a really solid team is important that knows what they're doing and what's going on. The second is a market that's large. Cannabis is pretty big. It's going to get bigger. So our opinion is that there's plenty of room for everybody. There's just, when this thing really pops off, we're talking about, smoking OG in Tokyo, right? From Mendocino, or like, it's just going to be insane. And then the other thing is having a product that people need, or in this environment need. Want is kind of before COVID, I would say. What do people need? What's essential? And then getting all of that down into a pitch that is digestible to the investor, that they get that aha moment, and this is why the world needs this, and this is the team that's going to do it, and this is why we should back them.
Yep. And so, you're right. And I think in a startup, there are some things that are probably pretty consistent, in any type of business that you need to understand. And I know you work very closely with a lot of different cannabis businesses by virtue of what you do. So as you see from like your experience and your perspective, what are some of the most important things that you think people starting out in cannabis businesses should be thinking about? Whether it's how they implement technology or, just getting the business going in general, like where have you seen kind of the success?
Yeah, I mean, I really kind of go back to team. Team's really important. People build things. Without people, you just have an idea. And, so it really is important to have the team. At Meadow, we have this, I don't know if you ever played like old school Nintendo, right? You have your A button and B button, right? You got that little controller. But that A and B would get you through as many levels as you need to get through. And that was like your power, right? So we kind of focus on our A and B button. We also have other people that have their A and B. So once you have this like diversity of skills and talent, you can really start tackling, your objectives, your goals. So finding a really good team that you can rely on, especially because cannabis is unconventional, turbulent. It is, it's one of those things that you want to make sure whoever's on your crew, on your boat, that everyone knows what to do. So I think that's really important. The second is trust but verify. I think one thing that as we've kind of come up in this industry is, in Prop 215 world, in compassion world, like people, it was all about people's word. There weren't credit lines or investors or anything like that. You are your reputation. You are your word. Nowadays, you don't know who you're necessarily talking to. You want to give them a benefit of the doubt, but you definitely should verify who they are, what they're doing, and people that they've worked with, and people that can vouch for them.
Right.
Other advice. I think there's this mentality of like the green rush, that there's this winner take all or land grab. You hear some of these terms, and I just don't subscribe to that, in the sense where I still think, because cannabis is so early, that this thing is just going to be so big that we need as much talent and people as possible. It's just a matter of time. It's no longer an if, it's inevitable. And then through this inevitableness, it's going to be through a few evolutions. So you got to have this marathon pace, and you just got to be able to just keep rowing the boat, keep going, and kind of take small steps every day. And if you do that and you're consistent, you'll get to where you want to go. It's just going to take a little bit longer than if you kind of rushed around and made a bunch of mistakes that you didn't want to.
Right. And it sounds like something that's always pretty consistent in your message is like the people and the culture, right? And I'll say, speaking of culture, when I first came into the cannabis industry, I remember seeing like the Camp Meadowlands retreat, and I was looking at it like, yo, that looks so dope, yo. Like I wish I could go. Like, how can I get an invite? Tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what's that like? What's that like? How did it come about? What do you guys do with the retreat? And can I get in at the next one?
Yeah, we were actually supposed to have it next month, in physically, but going with COVID and everything, we've decided to go virtual. Okay. This would be our third one, but we do have a date locked in for next year. It's amazing, man. It's like, imagine all your favorite people in this industry, in the Redwoods in Mendocino, in this huge campgrounds. It's like 200 acres. Mm-hmm. Where food's taken care of, really great conversations, an amphitheater where you're smoking cannabis, hearing what people are doing. You got archery, you got campfires, you got s'mores. It's like cannabis camp, and it's way different than any of the conventions or hotels or those things. It's like back to nature. It's a little bit more do it yourself. You can bring your own tent. You can bring a van or a camp. It's cool, man. And what I love about it, it really helps people get alignment. It allows community to kind of see different perspective, get out from what they were doing, and then meet and see a curated group of people that really care about this plant. But it started, Meadow really believes in community. We've hosted hundreds of events since 2014. Whether it's getting together and having a talk or read through of the regulations, or having a barbecue or happy hour, or going to a festival, empowering some stuff there. We've done a lot, and Meadowlands came about through just we needed more space. The stuff that we were doing just kind of got larger than what we could handle, and what was awesome about the location is Camp Navarro. Camp Navarro is in Mendocino. We had the first time I went there was with Y-Combinator in Camp YC. So the first time I got there, we were doing Meadow. I was like, yo, we're going to come back and we're going to do a cannabis event here. And he's like, okay, maybe, keep me up in the loop. Because there aren't that many progressive venues that would allow cannabis and all this other stuff. So Dan from Camp Navarro is super key in believing in that vision and making it happen.
That's super dope, man. And I think it's one of the things that I like to do here on this show is really highlight diversity. And I think one of the things that was interesting that I read about you was that you worked at your family's Chinese food restaurant, the Golden Dragon. Yeah. What did that teach you about entrepreneurship, hard work, and then building generational wealth that you apply in what you do today?
Yeah. All right. So The Golden Dragon still is operating. It's in Plymouth Meeting, Conshohocken in Pennsylvania. My family's still there. If you go in right now, my mom is literally gonna greet you. It's only takeout. I can't sit in anymore. So it's been there longer than I've been alive. So it's on year 38. So it's a family restaurant. So it's a bunch of my aunts are there, my grandmother is there, my dad is in the kitchen with my uncle, and being a chef. So definitely family run. We split the profits. We take every hit together. It's been a journey, man. Our family immigrated from Vietnam in 78, 79, right around there. And we were sponsored from a church that brought us over. The family left Vietnam from the war and then came over. And after doing some odds and ends, decided to go in on this restaurant to create our own business. So kind of like that's the framing of sort of where my upbringing was. And we spent a lot of time in the restaurant. There's no babysitters. We just were in the restaurant.
So you were learning how to work, right? When you were
everything. Peeling, I remember peeling 12 blocks of shrimp, 40 pounders, just like boom, 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 or making egg rolls or dumplings or takeout or waiting or cashier. I've run every single position. And then when we started getting into like middle school, high school, we started getting paid, which is nice. So it was interesting because now we were in control of our own finances. And if we wanted money, we would just go work at the restaurant to go get it. And then we'd buy our own things. So there was definitely this work ethic. And restaurant life is hard. It's 10 to 12-hour days, really no breaks throughout the week. And if you know Chinese restaurants, we don't take breaks.
No, every straight business.
every
Chinese food.
Yeah, every holiday. So like if it's Christmas, I'm literally hanging out with like my Jewish friends that are coming through and like watching a movie because they're not doing their thing. If it's July 4th, people are getting takeout. So yeah, and so there was this like beat of the drum that was like you just don't let up and you just keep going. So that drive, that work ethic was really instilled because you can't complain as a kid because your mom and dad are doing the same thing. Yeah, it's just like there's no choice. And then what's nice is other kids, my cousins, were in there too. So my cousins and I are pretty close. It's pretty much like brothers and sisters growing up. And so we would watch ourselves and like help each other out. And it kept us out of trouble, right? We didn't go looking for trouble because we were just working at the restaurant. So that was definitely formidable in how it created at least my drive. As far as creating generational wealth and your questions there, we were super fortunate and super blessed to be in a good school district. We worked a lot on our grades. I got into Penn State, got there on a bunch of scholarships. And I think like from a first generation standpoint, education, having the resources, being lucky, having people, mentorship, really just working your butt off and not like taking any excuses to not do well because your family sacrificed a lot to get here. Right. There was this weird thing. Now that we're talking about it, there was not many moments I could complain to my parents, right? Because ultimately I knew it would be, we didn't even get to go to school. You are in school. This is your job. Go get this done. And then it kind of filtered like, all right, I have this opportunity. I need to make them proud. How do I do that? So yeah, I kind of just took that and ran with it from right after I stopped working at the restaurant, mainly when I got into college. So I started taking up internships and working at other companies and stuff like that. So, my advice is do your best to, do well in school, but then try to get as much work experience as possible. whether you're cutting people's lawns, whether you're like helping people organize their files at their home, or whatever you can do, because every single job you get builds this is another tool in your toolbox that you just keep putting in there. And as you get up to speed to whatever you want to do and whatever you want to build, you can look in your box and be like, oh, I remember how to do QuickBooks because I used to do it for so-and-so. Let me just start doing that. Or, hey, I need to figure out contracts or whatever. Oh, I remember talking to a lawyer guy or someone I went to school with. And, it's all these different connections. And if you start doing that early or early enough, by the time you're able to operate, you have a list of mentors or experience that you can, delve on from.
Right. And that's so true, man. And I think it makes me think about, there's so many different things that I learned along the way from different jobs that I probably thought I hated and never even knew that it would come in handy someday. Right. And,
Yep.
and I think to the point of starting early, it's definitely something that I try to do. So like my 6-year-old daughter, she did a lemonade stand this summer so that she could try to learn about earning her own money and stuff like that. And so like, I know with you having a 4-year-old, with you being in business, do you kind of do anything to like teach them or understand anything about business or whatnot? So yet, or
we haven't gotten there, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've been focused on, we've just been focused on like, okay, is she napping? Is she eating? Yeah. All of that. Yeah. But I think when it comes down to it, probably things that we'll teach, like I think babysitting is going to be great for her. Mm-hmm. She loves other kids and stuff. So I think babysitting will be a big one. And then like, for us, it's been teaching her that both of the parents are in the cannabis industry. Right. So like she's not going to grow up in this world where there was a stigma or like cannabis, all this stuff. Being in San Francisco, it's a pretty progressive city where it's like, oh, your parents are doing that. Okay, cool. Like it works. So those are things that I'm pretty happy about. But, as far as teaching her about money and finances, man, I wish I got those classes in school, right? Like no one really taught that. Money management, like in Chinese culture, you get like this red envelope for Chinese New Year or birthdays. It's just full of cash. Mm-hmm. People just give you cash. Mm-hmm. I didn't invest any of that. I just spent it on candy. I spent it on toys. Mm-hmm. So maybe like things that I would think about if I had to redo it for her, maybe start her off with an early Roth IRA, or like start investing into a 529 for her college, or things like that kind of set her up so she doesn't have to come out with debt when she gets there. I think that's one of the biggest problems we see right now. It's that kids go to college, they spend all this money on this degree, or they get out of college and they're like, you know what, I need an MBA or I need to go to grad school. And all of a sudden they come out, they're like 50, 100 grand in debt. So that first 4 to 10 years, you're just working off that debt. And you never have that chance to get that freedom or take that risk when you're younger, when the risks and the failure is minimal. So, it's like stuff like that where I think having that financial freedom earlier in your career or your life to be able to pursue, like, all right, I'm just doing internship with Tahir and just like learn about whatever, like, sure, go do it. It's, that's the stuff I think where I would hope she would have.
Mm-hmm. And to the point that you made about, working together with family and you and your wife both being in the industry, I saw that she has a cooking blog. And so are those recipes infused? And so what is your favorite edibles recipe, if so?
Yeah. So before getting into Meadow, I went to Amsterdam in order to work on starting an edibles company with her.
Okay.
That's kind of the original. Yeah. Amsterdam, man. It's great. Yeah, that's like, and then what I learned, from there, we didn't start right away, but the following year she started working on edibles. So she has a company and a product called Mellows. Mellows are 5 milligram infused gourmet handcrafted marshmallows. So like brown butter sage, strawberry shortcake, chocolate malt. These are the flavors that she has. She's been doing it since 2015. Yeah, it's good. It's been done since 2015. She's based in San Francisco. She's in like 40 some stores, but she also has a cookbook called Edibles. It's on, on any of the major bookseller online. And Edibles is co-authored with Corrine, who, they both went to cooking school, San Francisco cooking school.
Okay.
And then that was right after she was doing the food blog. So her food blog is called like Lick My Spoon. And she basically got to eat all these great meals everywhere. And I would like kind of go on with her. And then it just went from eating all these meals to like, I want to cook these meals more and replicate. So then I went to cooking school and then created this edibles company. And, here we are. So yeah, food's a big part of our lives. And edibles, the recipes in the book, my favorite is I like the green eggs and ham. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's good. The duck burgers are amazing, and the red beet hummus is great. So you can infuse all of those, and you can kind of like add to your dosage amount that you can tolerate.
Yeah. So these are like real recipes, real food.
yeah, it's super real. And like different interactions and different groups.
Okay, yeah, I have to check it out. And to think about something a little bit more, where you said Chinese culture, but I know you mentioned your family's from Vietnam, and I know a lot of what I read when you look at cannabis, like historically, like when they look in the Chinese pharmacopoeia, that was some of the earliest like mentions of cannabis being used as medicine. Like traditionally, are there any things that like taught like herbal or natural remedies that, where that's always been like important to you, or was like cannabis something where, does the family look down on it? How do they perceive it? Do they recognize that, or is it more still like it's, you're in the cannabis industry?
Yeah. I mean, I've been smoking since high school. My parents didn't know for a while. And then when I told them I was going into cannabis, they were originally pretty like, just, you sure? I think I've built enough credibility with my work and what I've done, where they, trust my judgment. But they're also like, you sure about this? And then I started talking about Chinese medicine, and I bridged the gap there. And then for them, I was like, oh, it's an herb, it's medicine. And then they were fully supportive. I mean, things about us growing up, bone broths, different soups, and like stewed medicines were part of our culture. A lot around, healing yourself through food and herbs, not necessarily taking pharmaceuticals. A lot of that. So, especially for me, when I started doing more cannabis, it just made a lot more sense because in another job, was in a health space that was primarily motivated by pharmaculture. So a lot of different medicines and pills and things and treatments, and that juxtaposed to my upbringing. And then kind of coming into cannabis, it gave me this perspective of, okay, people are just trying to get healing. They're trying to get well. This is a plant. This is a way for us to heal and, and move forward. So it's, Chinese herbal medicine is there. Cannabis has been used for thousands of years everywhere. I think they just found it at some like archaeological dig that was like, right. There's evidence everywhere.
I think it was like hemp or something like that from like 10,000 years ago.
Crazy
like that. Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, that makes total sense to me. I'm just like, I want to. If it's there, it's natural. It's just like it's way more potent now.
Right, I agree. And with you being there in California, are you doing anything specific to kind of support minority-owned business owners or anything like that through Meadow or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's early. We care a lot about diversity. I mean, we there's a very strong culture at Meadow around this concept. We stand on the shoulders of giants. That this opportunity that we have in front of us is built on people in previous generations, and unfortunately, a lot of that. The collateral damage on the war on drugs have affected, a lot of people of color, but also my own personal run-ins with cannabis and police. I know if I was a different shade darker, that I would have, gone into jail, right? Like statistically, it's there. So that is a sobering fact that we all know. And because of that, we've done a lot of work there. So whether it's hosting, a lot of it's around education. So we spend a lot of time in education. The other thing we spend a lot of time on is policy. And then another thing we do is try to help local and state figure out how to support these businesses besides just a license. Right. It's what we're seeing in the cannabis industry. The best of the best are still not making it. Right. Mm-hmm. This is a unforgiving industry if you just don't get all the things aligned right. Business in general is an unforgiving industry. Right. You can have, 3 years in, over 50-60% of businesses fail, something like that. Some crazy stat. So we think a lot about, so what we've done is over the years, a lot of education. So hosting our own workshops. We have discounted pricing for equity operators. We have, Meadowlands, we gave out scholarships for people of color. So like and equity operators. So Meadowlands was really different from a lot of other conferences where we had way more color across the spectrum than traditional conferences, which are like $800 price tickets to get in. Yeah. You know what I mean? It just, we made it accessible. Things that we're focused on this year, we're actually working with more nonprofits that have resources within the communities. Like we're really trying to not just focus on the entrepreneur, but focus on the community itself. Because ideally what should happen is an equity operator gets a license, they operate, and that money gets turned over within local community. It doesn't get siphoned out to some Canadian pubco, right? It is, hey, you're a local business owner, you hire local people, you're buying from local groups, that money is getting fed into, the pizza shop down there or the packaging company down there. Like, how do we really build a local economy around it? And that's like educating, other communities. And so working with nonprofits on that. Just finished a few workshops there. And then other stuff for me that I work on separately with that happened this year is a group with Y-Combinator founders called ACE. It's Allies Creating Equity. So one of the things I'm realizing, and you may see this too, a lot of the disparity and inequality that we're witnessing right now and the uprising and all of that, a lot of it has come from the war on drugs.
Absolutely.
And all these nonprofits and all these things that have been staged up, all these resources are supporting something that generations or decades ago that have been pervasive have now caught up to where we are now. So what we're trying to do is help people heal any sort of, we believe that racism, all this stuff could be healed. It's stuff that you're not born with. You just kind of got indoctrinated or you learn from something. So how to re-educate, reprogram people, and then how to create equity by hiring people of color, putting people of color on your board or as a board observer, donating time and money and resources, mentorship, all that stuff. So we're doing that with ACE. And then my perspective from cannabis coming in is, look, if we can do all of this and we can bring in some learnings from cannabis about equity, because we're the only industry in the entire world that has an equity program.
Right.
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 Why isn't it in any other industry?
Right.
Right. Why can't we bring that and say, hey, if you just look at what we're doing here, try to like, there could be an uplifting across the board.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because like you said, it's not exclusive to cannabis that people of color were impacted by the war on drugs. So, I mean, equity,
exactly,
reparations is something that is, I mean, it should be an ongoing conversation across.
Absolutely. And so in tech, it's not foreign, right? It's not as diverse as it should be. So how do we encourage, like, why does someone that has been arrested have to go and work in the cannabis industry in order to get equity? Why can't they go work in the tech industry?
Right.
Why aren't we, if it's about reparations, in my mind, why isn't there just a fund being set up and just give people money directly? And maybe it's not a lot in the beginning, right? Maybe it's a few bucks here and there, but as this industry grows and as that bucket will grow, and then we can, start moving forward by healing our past problems. So yeah, the equity stuff is really important to us, mainly because we're so early that the work that we do now, that trajectory, even by a few degrees, if we can make it more diverse, then by the time this thing matures a bit more, it's not just like a lot of other industries where it's completely whitewashed, right? Where it's completely devoid of any culture or creativity, or that's what it is. Like, diverse teams perform better. That straight up, that's just what happens. Diverse industries will perform better. And yeah, but I've been learning a lot, man. It's a lot. The whole thing around like racism or anti-racism, right? The whole thing about really understanding just the inequality that has happened and how to bridge it. There's a lot there to unpack. It's not lost on us at all. So we try to do our best there to help push that forward.
Right. Well, yeah, man, we definitely have to connect and talk more. So NCIA, we launched our social equity scholarship program a little over a month ago. And right now we have over 80 new members that are social equity licensees and applicants from all over the country. Definitely a lot of them, quite a few in California. So I know, like you said, you guys are already discounting equity operators. Maybe that's something we can connect around. And like I said, with definitely people like you that, support these issues, definitely want to have you involved. So we'll definitely talk about that, man.
Sure. Happy to. I mean, that's easy. That's like a layup. Bring it on. The stuff that we're trying to figure out right now, kind of like that. So we did the MCBA policy summit about a month or two ago, how to create a homogenous structure across, well, in California for us, we have all these different counties, how to create a more standardized equity program that can help bridge the gap. Each municipality is a little bit different, but there's money coming in. So how do we kind of keep making that count the best way possible to support these people?
Yep. And, man, this has definitely been dope talking to you, man. You have a dope perspective on a lot of different things, man.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I mean, I appreciate you, man. This is great.
Yeah, man. And I was just going to ask, is there anything upcoming that Meadow is working on, or anything important that you want to share and kind of let people know about that you have going on?
We have Meadowlands coming up. I think that's a big one. I don't know. I mean, I just think, like, if we can go back to a little bit more compassion in this industry, especially because that's where it's been built, a little bit more like giving a benefit of the doubt to the other person and realizing that, like, there isn't this, monopolistic culture. It has to be more around we all working together. It's like Team Cannabis is kind of the idea, right? It's not just Team Meadow or Team NCIA or Team whatever. This is Team Cannabis, and we gotta get as many people on our side, and to like take your time to get there. Everyone seems to be in a rush. So the thing that I'm most thankful for this year is we've been able to get essential designation. And that's a game changer.
Yeah,
right? It's an insane game changer that I think that it will be this inflection point that we're gonna see as we move forward. So we are grateful to be part of that, and we should be grateful to like kind of see that this is going to be an industry we can grow together in, and to take more of a long-term approach.
Right. And well, man, we have the MORE Act possibly getting ready to come up for vote this month. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, all these things are inevitable, right? If there's one issue the country can agree on, it's cannabis at the moment. It makes sense to me, right? We need banking, we need decriminalization, we need legalization, we need tax revenue, we need jobs. If we look at all the things that are happening in the world or in the country, cannabis is an ecosystem builder. It's not just, hey, we're giving licenses out. Each license is going to produce tax revenue. It's going to produce real estate rentals or acquisition or improvements to the physical space. It's going to employ accountants and bud tenders and consultants. It's going to be the packaging people and all that stuff. We know that's going to work because the illicit market, the legal market, they're booming. So we can get as much of that over and quicker, the better we are off. And and the other side to it, it's better for mental health, right? If you look at the states that legalize cannabis, there's a 25% drop immediately on opioid overdoses. There is, alcohol consumption comes down. Teenage use is coming down, which is crazy, right? So like it's just this virtuous cycle of positive effects that have had years and years now of data, that like the conversation in 2014, like, oh my God, we're going to legalize it, the kids are going to get crazy. None of it came true. And, we also have in parallel the hemp industry, which is the same plant moving through. And I think we're going to see a lot of things happen with different cannabinoids and the raw material being used for different hardware or plastics replacement. So I'm super stoked around what's going to come because it just helps the industry kind of take off these weights or these shackles, right? Where you have banking, you have a real bank account, you can do credit cards, you can do, all this stuff, and maybe 280E could go away. So there's a lot of stuff to look forward to, but it's just going to take time.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree. Well, man, it's definitely dope catching up with you, man. Looking forward to staying in touch and talking and following and the getting for the Meadow camp next year. Try to make Cali for that. And even like I said, good luck with the virtual events you have coming up. I definitely appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing your wisdom and rapping with me for a minute.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Yep. Well, thank you, bro. Be easy, man. We'll talk soon.
Excellent. Peace.
Yep. Peace.